guys and gals, and we're here from Drakewing Gaming, and so if you may on Twitter the Gaming Dragon. Today I'm coming back at you with the Let's Play episode of Kingsguard, Leandros' Path. So yeah, before we jump into it, just want to let y'all know that our Patreon is out for as little as $5. Y'all can help support the channel, get some awesome rewards like permanent access to our community Discord server and full access to upcoming Not Safe for Work videos. Anyway, y'all, let's go ahead and jump right back in. Alarm chain, you were up, and let's go. Alright. I used to love this game. I detest you. Ah! Leandros was swift like a hawk, and the spoon found its way into your mouth all without spilling a drop. You glared at him, and he smiled innocently. Begrudgingly, you swallowed the soup and continued to allow him to feed you, though without the childish eating games. He stayed with you for the rest of the night, through the tossing and turning you had to endure from the pain in your back and the rocking of the ship that made your stomach churn. Once it became morning again, you felt far more refreshed. Though Leandros still believed that you needed to rest, you pleaded with him to help you out of bed. You didn't want to stay bedridden the entire time and needed some fresh air. With his help, you managed to reach the door and made your way out of the room. You passed through the halls, taking in the sights of all the survivors from Havana. Many of them were as heavily bandaged as you, some more so. Others with just a few scrapes, bruises, or scars. It was a menagerie of men and beastmen, the young and the old, the rich and the poor. Anyone who was able to get aboard was invited in. The assassins discriminated against no one. Perhaps you were their target, but their bloodlust ensnared all these people as well. Even though the ship was packed with well over 100 survivors from the attack in Havana, you could tell there was more than enough room for several hundred more. You questioned just how something this large could support this many people and still stay afloat. Despite the gloom of the people in pain and in misery, the ship itself was a thing of beauty. It was as large as a small castle, with the grace and elegance of one as well. It made you question just where Marilyn and Esther managed to find such a ship, or the money to get one made at least. The ship had 6 decks, well over 100 spacious rooms for sleeping, 3 dining, and numerous other rooms for recreational activities. It even had its own library. It was supposed to be the future of travel, at least from what Leandros told you, though he was probably repeating that from your aunt and uncle. Along the way to the upper deck, he pointed out a few nobles who paid an exorbitant fee to move their belongings a little on the ship. To you, it didn't seem like that bad of an idea. The ship already had all the comforts of home in one convenient place. There was even the added benefit of stopping in harbor for restocking that gave passengers an opportunity to get out and explore new lands. Right now, though, the ship was going at full speed on a one-way trip to Valdenforth, a port town in southern Yusan. From there, it would be a half-day carriage ride and inland to reach your relative's estate. You'd remain there until the chaos in Havana had settled down and was deemed safe again to return. The thought of staying on board and traveling the world seemed like a good enough idea to you, though Leandros seemed to be wary of this place. An assassin could easily have snuck on board, and while he had yet to see anything suspicious, he couldn't wait until you were safe at the estate. You wanted to tell someone about the mist you saw, about how it seemed to be emitted from the assassins and helped you determine who was ally and who was foe. But who would have believed you? For all they knew, it could have been a part of a dream you had, and they likely would have dismissed it as such. If someone had told you the same story, you know you would have done the same. But there was something about that mist and that intoxicating stench that just was impossible to ignore. You knew it was real and not just a trick of the mind. You emerged from the ship sweating and almost out of breath as you hobbled over to the railing. Even just taking the 2 flights of stairs to get to the upper deck was enough to wind you. The warmth of the sun and the breeze helped cool you off, and you felt a bit more refreshed. It would have been relaxing if it weren't for the various deckhands moving around so vigorously. You turned to look at the horizon, and there was still nothing but clouds and sea. You did spy a single bird soaring overhead, though. We must be close to leaving the Red Sea by now. It's a good thing we didn't get attacked by pirates, though I suspect they would be more intimidated by us. Would have made for an interesting spectacle, at least. Even without cannons, this ship could probably just ram right through them. Let's just count our blessing. I think we've had enough excitement for a lifetime. As though he jinxed it, the ship rocked violently as it swayed over what seemed to be a wave. Your feet nearly gave way and you had to use all your might to keep yourself from falling. Leandros reached out for the rail and hugged it tightly as though his life depended on it. His fur started to bristle and his claws came out. Was that a rogue wave? The waters around here should have been calm, right, Leon? The ship had stopped swaying, yet Leandros was still bracing himself and mumbling under his breath. Hey, Leon, it's over. Oh, heavenly gods, I beg you for thy blessing and honor us with the safe passing through the sea of demons. May this cursed-bound craft stay afloat in waters be smooth and calm. Thank you, Neil. Water time, or tea time. Ugh. Leandros? Sometimes I wonder if he is the one in need of being protected. Trains shared a crowded spot at the top of the list that the Lion feared. Any manner of transportation vessel was enough to shake him up. Ships, carriages, even the tricycle that you rode as a young boy didn't stop him from tensing up in despair. You thought about scaring him, but given his state, he would likely just jump ship. The bird you saw before cried as it circled above the ship. Your eyes followed it. Ow. Your eyes followed it hovering in the breeze until finally it dove down. It was aiming for someone on the quarterdeck and perched itself on the passenger's outstretched arms. His furry ears, bushy tail, and dark foreign garbs were a dead giveaway to who he was. Kashiro greeted the bird with a scratch under its chin, then began to work at removing what looked like a small note from a knapsack secured to the bird's back. He unraveled it, and as soon as he was finished reading, he walked away and disappeared to the belly of the ship. Was that a messenger bird? All the way out here? It didn't look to be a seagull, or a pigeon for that matter. Back at Havana, the Eyrie nested a dozen trained pigeons used often to send messages quickly across long distances. But even they could only fly in one direction, and that was home. You weren't an expert on avians, but even you knew that it was so strange to receive a message in the middle of nowhere. Several moments later, Kashiro returned to his spot and released the bird. It flew off with incredible speed and vanished into the distance. I see we've gotten another message. Oh, so you finally come to your senses. I was just a little shaken is all. Right. Anyway, you say that like we've received more than one? We have been communicating with the mainland. It's essential that we are kept informed about what is happening in Havana. How? I mean, how are you going to get these? How are you going to get these letters, or rather, how did that bird manage to find us? I know as much about that as you. Kashiro has always remained silent about it whenever asked. Doesn't that strike you as suspicious? I would never doubt Kashiro, and neither should you. If I had to wager a guess, it might just be a trade secret from his village. Kashiro looked down and spotted the two of you. He wanted to say that he looked concerned, but it was always impossible to read his face. As he approached, he handed out a small slip of paper, what you assumed was initially tied to the bird. I have news. You let Leandros grab it, not wanting to let go of the railing that was keeping you up. As Leandros read it, Kashiro kept his gaze away from you. There was no denying that you did feel a bit spiteful of him. After all, he was supposed to keep your father safe. You didn't say anything out loud, but he could likely guess what you were thinking. He should have been the one to take your father's place in the afterlife. It was a terrible thought. You knew that, but there was no way of hiding your true feelings, and you were never too good at hiding your emotions anyway. But you yourself did nothing. When your father ran, you didn't chase after him. Who knew? It might have been your fault that you couldn't convince your father to flee with you. I'm sorry. What? I know how you must feel right now. I can read it off of your face. Even without a mirror, you imagine that you must have had quite the scowl. You waited for Kashiro to say something else, but he was likely waiting for you. He kept on his stone mask, though, unwilling or maybe just unable to show any emotion. It only irritated you more. The silence was broken by Leandros crumpling the paper. First the assassination, and now this. Our soldiers are spread thin as it is dealing with all these problems. There's no denying it. He must be behind this. There were some correlations, but we can't jump to conclusions. Even someone like him would have difficulty orchestrating these events, and he has yet to show himself. You fail to realize what kind of demon Gaius is. Now, I'm not even sure that anywhere is safe for Jake. The way the two of them looked at you sent chills down your spine. What happened? There could be a war soon, and I don't think any of us are safe. There you go. A small town in Brahm was just attacked by soldiers. Our soldiers. I doubt the Queen hasn't already received news of this yet. It will only be a matter of time before they make a decision on what to do about this. Are you thinking they might retaliate? How can they be sure they were our soldiers anyway, not just someone in disguise? We did just get attacked by those we believe to be our guards. Why wouldn't this be the same for them? As far as they are concerned, a town in their nation was attacked by soldiers in our garb. Worse yet, they were originally stationed at the gate in the Asan Brahm Pass. To them, this could be viewed as nothing more than an act of war. We would likely believe it to be the same were it to happen to us. This could easily have been rogue men, though. Why can't we just write a letter to the Queen explaining this mishap? Because even if we could, it wouldn't matter if it wasn't a letter directly from our own king. But I'm the king, and I'm right here. I could still write that letter. What are you guys so silent for? Jake, for all intents and purposes, you are dead. Dead? When we fled from Havana, we made the decision to spread the word of your passing. We hoped it would throw off your pursuers and bring your enemies out from hiding. So then the entire kingdom thinks I'm dead? All but those we can truly trust. But why? When word of this spreads, it can throw the entire kingdom into chaos. Think of all those who would start to scramble for the throne. And none of them would get close to it. The King's Council, your council, knows that you are still alive and will do everything to keep those not worthy of the crown away from the throne. For the time being, we need you to stay in hiding, and we need to fool our enemies. Once we have determined if it is safe, we will announce your return. But until then, it must be a closely guarded secret that you are alive. As you can see, though, it has backfired a bit. Convincing the Queen of your well-being would be a tricky affair and could risk exposing you. So what are we going to do? I could try to investigate this myself. I don't think they would be so rash as to immediately plan to strike back when we may have some time to get to the bottom of this. No, I want you to stay close to Jake. With the issues in Old Dominia, I will be leaving once we land. Even now, more than ever, after learning of this, I just hope that where we are going, that you'll be safe from all this. Well, if Brahm does try to come after us, we still hold more military power than them. It'd be foolish to come after us even after learning of the news of my passing. Not if they believe they would stand a chance at increasing their borders. Half their nation have their knees glued down before an antler, before an altar. They likely have forgotten how to even pick up a sword. They wouldn't need to do much. Only attack what would be left. Leandros, we still have some time, and you know that we need more allies. We don't have enough men to defend ourselves from both Farharan and Brahm. Farharan? There's someone else who was coming after us as well? Leandros nodded solemnly. It started off as just a group of bandits from Farharan wreaking havoc across Old Dominia. We ignored it, believing that Devereaux, the commander in charge of that area, would have been able to quell it. But I haven't heard of him in months, and now this small group of bandits have been growing into a sizable force. Where they're all coming from and so quickly we do not know, but we must get to the bottom of this. At the rate of their growth, they will all have a full army on our lands, ready to charge forth and bring war right to our doorstep. Which is why we should be asking Brahm for help. It would be nice to have some reinforcements, but if the Queen makes her move, they can end up fighting for her. The late King had many allies in Brahm, those who had sworn their life to him over the Queen. I'm certain they would be willing to help us in this time of need, just as we did for them. The King Reynard, yes, but Jake, he has yet to prove himself to them. I'm not sure if that is worth the risk. I still feel as though we should give it a chance. It is clear that the invaders are likely to head straight to the capital, seeing as they have for the most part ignored Azite and Renero. Trying to rush an army through the hallowed pass would be foolish. This gives us much needed time to prepare reinforcements in the event that our forces aren't strong enough to hold back Farharan. You know, I think I might be able to help you there. Got a few friends in Farharan who have been itching for a fight. A few of you looked up at a large beastman spying on you from the balcony above. He smiled as he leaned on the railing and saluted to you. He vanished and reappeared a moment later. As soon as he walked forward, you recognized the beastman as Ramos, squeezing his way into your group as though he were the last piece to finish a puzzle. So, you know, drink time. Looks like our boys are getting a plan together. Koshiro leered at him and Leandro simply stared in annoyance. Who gave you permission to eavesdrop on our conversation? This is a private matter that doesn't concern you. Still quick to climax, I see. Well, for one, it's not eavesdropping if everyone can hear you. And even if you were truly concerned about that, why not take it inside to somewhere more private anyway? Koshiro, it's alright. There isn't much about this that he doesn't know already. Ramos grinned once again, and you could feel Koshiro's eyes already boring a hole through the rhino. Of course, that still doesn't make it right for you to listen in. And reinforcements? From you? Unfortunately, we don't have the time to wander around Farharan looking for fickle alliances from mercenaries. Farharans aren't fickle. You pay them or owe them a favor and they pay it off. They're more true of people than you give them credit for. And who said anything about mercenaries? I'm talking about soldiers here. Tough, armed, armored, and ready to fight. We are not exactly on good terms with anyone in the Wastes. And you're in luck that I have arrived. I know quite a few powerful individuals who still owe me some favors. Provided you're willing to pay, I could cash those favors in for far more than just a simple helping hand to your crusade. With the army we have, I think we should be good. Heh, certainly doesn't look like it. I beg your pardon. Look around you. Got a king without a clue of what's going on, making him about as helpful as an armless man in a wrestling match. Hey! Your nation is being ransacked and savaged, and yet you still refuse help like a beggar throwing away fresh bread. And somehow you were going to put in a good word for us as you trek around trying to gather an army? There's a lot you don't know about me after 15 years. Really now. Look, if you really don't want my help, then I'll just sit back and watch the show. From a long distance, of course. The gods know I won't want to get caught dead anywhere near Yusan when things start to fall. He did have a point, although you question how trustworthy he was as an individual. Leandro seemed to accept him, and he did entrust your life to his care back at the castle. After all that you learned, there was no way you could win this war with just your men. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pause it right there. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and check out our Patreon if you can. It always helps. Anyway, I love you all. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye!